Alright folks, today we're going to try to have a little fun. This is a little project I'm going to try, and if it works, I'll be a happy, happy man. I picked up this apple tree the other day, just for fun. It is a Anna apple, and I've never grown this variety. Honestly, I'm not a big fan of yellow apples, but this is mostly just for, well, it says it's a green apple, looks yellow to me. Mostly this is just for an experiment. I wanted to have a second apple tree anyway to cross-pollinate with the one that I have. But I bought this little tree, and you can see it's got a whole lot of young growth on it. This looks like, we'll work our way down the tree, this was last year's growth. This was the year prior, down to, I guess, here. So this would have been 2 years ago, and this would have been, anywhere 3 to 5 years ago, whatever. I'm going to go ahead and prune this tree back, and I'm going to take all of this top growth out, the 1 and the 2-year wood. I don't know if the 2-year wood will work. I haven't read enough to tell you, but I've got plenty of 1-year wood that is going all the way up there. 1-year wood, I mean, there's a tip growing all the way up here. Yeah, that's every bit of 9 foot tall. A couple of those doing that. I actually had quite a bit of fun cramming this thing in my car to get it home. But anyway, I'm going to prune all that out. And then what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to simulate what folks do where they bury them upside down in the ground over the winter to let them callus off. Now the ground down here is not frozen, although it is sleeting today, which is very rare for Houston. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix up my dirt here, which has got sleet in it, and there's even a little bit of ice on the bag. But I'm going to stir it up real good as long as it's cold and try to get that dirt as cold as I can, down to about 30 degrees like it is today. It's supposed to drop to 28 tonight, I think. So try to get that dirt as cold as I possibly can. Excuse me, cold as I can. And then I'm going to fill up my bucket here with the cold dirt, drill holes in the bottom so it can drain. I fill the bucket with the cold dirt, and then I'm going to bury it, surround it with those piles, with those bags of leaves over there. And what I hope for that to do is to have, icy cold dirt and insulated in, and basically simulate a cold soil. And then with the, with the plants in, with the cuttings in upside down, with the butt end up, then when the sun hits the lid of this bucket, it should warm it, and it should simulate, that spring growth or whatever to make it start to callus off and shoot roots. And hopefully it works. But I don't know. It's just an experiment, and I think it's a good experiment just because, worst case scenario, this little tree here, I chop it back to basically the trunk, and I'm no worse off because I'll still have a good little apple tree. So anyway, that's what I'm going to try to do, and I'll kind of give you the bits as we go through. So I actually liked the shape of this tree that it had going on. It had a limb over here, bounced out by a limb over here, and then a limb here, roughly balanced out by a limb over here. So I've got 4 sort of main that I'll have. And so with that, I went ahead and I cut back this main center leader so that I should have now, when I plant this up, this will be about 3 feet off the ground. It'll have the sport, and I'll have splits going 4 different ways. So I went ahead and pruned them back. I've left a bud on each one facing, facing outwards. Let me get the camera in so you guys can see. Like there's a bud there. Come on. Come on. There you go. There's a bud there. Bud there. And and the like on the other two. There's a bud facing outward. So it should make it push growth out horizontally. I want these to stick out further horizontal because this tree, you can tell it was nursery grown because of how tall and narrow it was. It was real tall and skinny and columnar. And your average apple tree needs to be more vase-shaped or, champagne glass. Maybe spread out more than that. So I'm going to try to promote it to do that by making these branches grow more sideways, and then eventually later on in life I'll let it start turning limbs up. The other thing I've done is I went ahead and poured out my compost here in the bucket, or the wheelbarrow, and I'm letting it sit out here in the sleet on purpose because I want the ice to get in the soil. And like I said, I'm just trying to get this good and cold as possible. It feels cold to me, but I want to make sure it's as cold as it possibly can be. So I'm going to keep coming out here about every 5 minutes and just stirring it around, exposing it to the air, letting it get good and icy. And then here's my cuttings I'll cut off. All my individual little pieces. I'm going to take these in the house where it's a hair warmer so I don't freeze. and start working those down to about 8 to 10 inch long pieces. And I'll show you what I get from that. Here's that main leader, by the way, what's left of that central leader. I'll let the dogs have that for a chew toy. I don't think that one's going to root. Just a hair big, I believe. But got a lot of cuttings here. Hopefully I should get 30 or 40 maybe. We'll just see what it works out to. Alright, so I've got all my cuttings trimmed down here, and I'm not sure what will work, if any of it works, but I've got a good test because I've got some of this stuff that I think was 2-year-old wood that's a little bit thicker, and I've got some of this stuff that's real spindly 1-year wood from out at the top. So we'll just bundle them all together, get them buried up in the dirt, we'll see what happens. But just like usual, I've cut the bottom flat so I know, and the top at an angle. Of course, you cut the top just a little bit above a top node, and your bottom you can cut flat right below the node. So I got 34 in total. If only half of these sprout, just like anything else. If only half works, if only a quarter works, I'll have more than I know what to do with. So we'll get them bundled up here, get them buried up, and see what happens. Okay, so I've got the cuttings bundled up, upside down, standing up in my bucket. Now I'm just filling some dirt in around them. I may have made them a little bit long for this bucket because they're only about 2 to 3 inches below the top. But I think that'll be okay because that'll just mean they're that much closer to the sun and the warmth, and hopefully will promote callousing. I did not use any rooting hormone. I guess I should have thought about that, but I didn't think about that until just now. So that'll be yet another test. See whether or not this works without rooting hormone. So I'm going to go ahead and get this filled up. I'm going to run some water through this bucket. I did drill the bottom full of holes. I didn't show you all that. Run some water through here to make sure the soil is moist but not soggy. And then I'll get it wrapped up and put in place. Okay, so I got the bucket filled up, and I went ahead and poured water through it to try to encourage the icy cold water. I used water out of my wife's fish pond, which was frozen over a week ago, rather than using tap water, because tap water I imagine would have been 60 or 70 degrees actually, or 55 at least. Most people don't think about that, but it's pretty warm. So poured that through. You can see it's running out of the bottom there a little bit. An interesting thing, when I poured the water in, the soil actually settled several inches in the bucket to where I probably only had about an inch over the bottoms of the cuttings. So I went ahead and topped it off again, and I kind of picked the bucket up and down, or picked it up and kind of, bumped it on the deck to make it kind of compact a little bit, get some air pockets out, and I poured more water through. So it should be good and saturated. And now what I'm going to do is just take this trash bag here. And the only reason I'm using the trash bag, honestly, is because the lid that I have for this bucket is not the original lid. So I just want to try to make sure we retain as much moisture as possible in here. Again, it's still going to be able to drain because it's got the holes drilled in the bottom, so it's not going to get soggy. It shouldn't rot. But as it gets warm, I don't want that moisture to evaporate. I want it to come up and hit the bottom of that plastic. And actually what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to get a handful of dirt to spread on top of the plastic and make it so that plastic stays down in the middle. Put the dirt just like that. So if moisture comes up and gets to the edges, it'll actually run back to the middle and drip off. And then we'll just set our lid on. It doesn't have to snap down or anything, just set it on. It's done. So when the sun comes down and hits this lid, it should warm the top of the bucket and should warm the butt ends, the bottom ends of the cuttings, and make them want to callus off and start growing roots. And hopefully the thermal mass of the soil will remain cold for the most part, to keep the upper ends where the leaf nodes and stuff are, keep those dormant longer. Now, I don't know for sure if this is going to work, like I said, because this little tree was already starting to push buds a little bit. Nothing was fully leafed out, but they were definitely fuzzier than they would normally be, so we'll just have to see. I'm going to come over here to my pile of leaf bags, courtesy of my neighbors, and we'll just scatter these out so that I can put this bucket on. Put right here in this corner. It'll get just afternoon sun. So it'll warm that lid, and hopefully, again, I don't want it to get too warm too fast, so I'm going to insulate it with these leaf bags, and I'll go ahead and put that together and show you what it looks like in the end. Alright, so there's the finished product. Hopefully, we thought about this, hopefully these black leaf bags won't draw in too much warmth to heat up the sides of the bucket, but I don't think they will just because of the insulating properties of the leaves. So, it's all set up. Like I said, the hope is that the trash bags will keep it insulated and keep the depths of the bucket cooler, while the sun will hit the lid and warm the top of the dirt. So we'll just have to kind of see what happens. This leaf bag don't want to cooperate, but just have to see what happens. You know, and the beauty of this whole thing is, all this was free. The only cost I have in it is 20 bucks that it cost me to buy that tree. And that's a one-time investment. I'll be able to do this year after year after year, if it works. So, I'm not promising you this will work, but it might be something y'all will try. And certainly, as the project goes on, if I do get promising, if I get good results, I'll certainly make a video about the good results, so I'll be happy. I'll try to come back and comment in the description below, or comment on the video itself if it ends up not working, just so y'all know, don't try it. Alright, I was having so much fun with this, I'm adding 2 more to the pot. I've got here Moonglow pear, and this is a peach of some sort. I don't remember the variety. It's the tags on the tree out in the yard. But anyway, just figured since I had the bucket set up, I had a few more cuttings I could take, a little bit more pruning I could do. So I'm going to go ahead and shove these in there too, and that way, maybe out of all this, something will work. So we'll see.